On a warm January afternoon in 1919, a wall of molasses 2 stories high came down a Boston street at 35 miles an hour. It moved faster than the people who tried to run from it. It tore an elevated railway clean off its iron pillars. 21 people died that afternoon, drowned, crushed, swept into the harbor, under a flood of molasses. This is how it happened. Molasses was not a sweetener here. It was a weapon. Distilled into industrial alcohol, it became munitions for the First World War, and with Prohibition closing in, one last fortune in rum. The war had turned cheap molasses into gold, and they could not make it fast enough. Every week the tank sat half empty was money lost, so they kept it filled to the brim. The company wanted its profit fast, with the next shipment already steaming toward the wharf. There was no time for caution, and no patience for anyone who asked whether it was safe. So they built a tank to hold it, right on the crowded waterfront of Boston's North End, steps from the homes and markets and children below. 50 feet tall, 90 feet across, 2.5 million gallons of molasses leaning over the rooftops. It went up fast and cheap, and it was never properly tested. The men who built it could not even read the plans they were handed. From the first day it was filled, it leaked. It leaked so steadily that neighborhood children came with cups to catch the drips. The company's answer was not to fix the leaks. It was to paint the tank brown so the leaking molasses would not show. When it was full, the steel groaned and shuddered. People who lived in its shadow learned to be afraid of it. No one with power listened. One man who worked there warned them, again and again, that the tank could burst, and was told to stop making trouble. His warnings went into a drawer, and the tank stayed full. Below the tank, it was an ordinary lunch hour. Children scooped free molasses from the gutters where the tank had always leaked. January 15th came in strangely warm, 40 degrees, after days near zero. Inside, a fresh shipment of warm molasses was fermenting, milding gas, building pressure against tired, overfilled steel. Just after 12:30, there was a sound like machine gun fire. The rivets sheared. The tank came apart. 2.3 million gallons let go in a single instant. A wave of molasses 25 feet high. An elevated train had crossed the viaduct only minutes before. A trainman saw the rails sag toward the wave and flagged the next one down just short of the gap. The ground shook like an earthquake. Windows rattled, workers froze, and people in the street turned just as the wave came down on them. It swept a firehouse off its foundation, threw a loaded wagon and its horse through the air, and knocked a tenement clean off its frame. In the firehouse, men were pinned beneath a collapsed floor as the molasses rose around them. Among the lost was a boy of 10, sent out that morning to fetch firewood. Molasses does not behave like water. It is heavy and slow, and it pulls you down and holds you where you stand. Cadets from a training ship moored nearby were among the first in, pulling the trapped free of the molasses by hand. Rescuers waited in waist-deep for hours and could barely tell the living from the dead, every one of them coated the same dark brown. By nightfall, 21 were dead and 150 hurt. For days, they searched the hardening molasses for the missing. The cleanup took weeks. Boston Harbor ran brown until summer. The company's first defense was to blame anarchists, to claim that evil men had blown the tank apart. It did not hold. What followed was one of the longest cases the state had ever seen. 3,000 witnesses, 45,000 pages of testimony. The finding was simple. The tank was too weak for what it held, built by a company that never had an engineer check the math. For the families, it took 6 years. 6 years of waiting before the company would admit, at last, that the fault had been its own. The company paid the families hundreds of thousands of dollars. A fortune then, millions in today's money. That verdict changed the rules. After the molasses, an engineer had to sign and stamp the plans, and a city had to approve them, before anything that big could ever loom over a neighborhood again. And for decades after, the people of the North End swore that on the hottest days, the streets still smelled faintly of molasses. The largest disaster the city never saw coming was made of the most ordinary thing in the world, and the quiet rules that keep the next one from happening were written, by hand, in molasses. For more big stories told small, like and subscribe to Main Street Miniatures.